Hello from Marion, Iowa. Now, the first question you probably have immediately is, why am I getting a video message? Well, I know as the chair of a department, you have a lot of face to face interaction with people. And of course, as an associate professor, you do a lot of that in the classroom too. Now, working from home is certainly a different situation where you're doing a lot more via text based, and sometimes it's kind of nice to get that visual input. I mean, we get the visual input from you, and I thought, maybe it might brighten your day a little bit if you got one from one of us also. So anyway, that's the reason why this is in a video as opposed into an email message. So now your second question is probably, okay, what do you want? I get that it's more polite than that, but basically that's where we're at. I wanted to bring to your attention a book that's coming out. My wife is a librarian at the Marion Public Library, and occasionally they receive pre released versions of books. And there's a new book coming out, Progressivism: The Strange History of a Radical Idea by Bradley C.S. Watson. Now, this is the advanced uncorrected version, which means it doesn't have the page numbers and those kinds of things in the table of contents. But in his book, he's essentially making the argument that, and I'll just simply read this here, the progressive idea, simply put, is that the principled American constitutionalism of fixed natural rights and limited and dispersed powers must be overturned and replaced by an organic, evolutionary model of the Constitution that facilitates the authority of experts dedicated to the expansion of the public sphere and political control, especially at the national level. So, in essence, he's sort of making a similar argument to what Leonard does in that progressivism was the rise of the administrative state. Now, Watson's book is not so much about the progressive era per se, just in and of itself. It's actually, the first two chapters really kind of set this up, in which, for his argument, he's in essence saying that progressivism is the child that would be produced if you mated social Darwinism and pragmatism together. And he does a fair amount on Woodrow Wilson, and Wilson's, quite frankly, what he perceives as an anti-constitutional point of view in trying to bring about the rise of executive power in the administrative state. Interestingly enough, in his second chapter, this child that he's talking about, which he considers progressivism, was aided and abetted and really kind of nourished by American Christianity and American Christianity's faith in the new social sciences and the way that societies ought to be. Now, as I mentioned, this book really isn't about just a review of the progressive era, though that's what the first two chapters are. Really, what Watson is doing is he's going after historians between the 1940s and the early 1980s. In essence, saying, quite frankly, they simply bought into the progressive narrative. They're just as anti constitutionalist as the progressives were themselves. They don't really respect fixed natural rights or believe in limited government and want to see the expansion of federal power. And in addition to that, of course, with the election of Reagan and the new kind of conservative movement, there was this counterattack, and of course, we started to see history move back to where it should be, as opposed to where it was in the 60s with counterculture, or in the 1950s with Hofstadter, and quite frankly, his simple, embrace of progressivism is kind of how Watson puts it. Watson's certainly on the conservative side of the spectrum. I would put him a lot further to the right than what I would consider Leonard. Now, Leonard wrote kind of a takedown book, which I certainly enjoyed, and he pointed out some of the illiberal pursuits where progressives, instead of being really progressive, ended up being really kind of regressive in a lot of their activities. Watson kind of goes a different way. Anyway, I just wanted to pass this along so that you kind of know that that book might be coming out. It isn't something that I think you probably want to include in a class because it doesn't necessarily fit real well, but that's obviously something that you would have to decide, and it's one of those things that you might want to take a look at sometime. Anyway, I hope everything's going okay. It's good to see that you're out of your basement, that you've been out on the deck, and it was a sunny day as opposed to hail and snow in a 24-hour period. Take care and look to hear from you soon. Bye now.